Hello everybody, and welcome to Monster Mondays, where I do horror, or whatever passes for it these days, stories for you. Today, I'm going to take a slightly more lighthearted approach with things, and I think I'm going to do kind of the same thing with Writer Wednesdays as well this week. So today I've got some creepypastas, so to speak, that I think were either a little more funny than they were scary, or just so flawed that people could laugh over how ridiculous they are. But then again, I've become so desensitized to horror, I laugh at slasher films now, so it's hard to say what's really scary anymore. Anyway, all that exposition out of the way, I'll start us off with Animal Crossing Dead World, a parody of Animal Crossing Wild World for the DS or DSi or something like that back in the day. And this is basically me trying to do a gaming creepypasta way back when. It goes like this. I have an impressive collection of video games. This included anything from your NES game to your 3DS games in the collection, because there's so many cliches of people, getting their hacked game from a yard sale or some creepy person that they've never met before. So I make sure early on to, not to do that and just leave it up to mystery where the hell I got it. Anyway, I had way more of these games than I could ever play and would have to get rid of some. Before culling my collection, I decided for nostalgia value to play a few of them one last time. Digging through my bins of video games that I collected over the years, I pulled out an Animal Crossing Wild World game for the Nintendo DS. I had a save file on it already and I knew it was a real-time game, so I'd likely not see some of the same villagers I had when I first played it. It's been at least 4 years since the last time I played it. Well, 4 years as of writing this, originally. I wanted to see if the graphics were any better on my 3DSi system, so I plopped it in and turned it on. I didn't know it back when I initially acquired the game as it was a reasonably new feature, but apparently this game had downloadable content. Figuring I might be missing out on some cool game enhancements, I didn't hesitate to set up my Wi-Fi configuration and download the content. Many players may remember the original Animal Crossing for the GameCube had this glitch where if you did a specific sequence of events, your character would have no eyes. Not even knowledge of a glitch like that could have prepared me for what I was about to see next. After a system shutdown, I went to activate the game from the 3DS home screen. Once I did, the Animal Crossing Wild World music sounded like it was being played backward. Instead of displaying the title as Animal Crossing Wild World, it read Animal Crossing Dead World. Thinking this might have been part of the downloadable content I'd unlocked, I entered the game and resumed my old save file. Everything seemed pretty standard at first, so I checked the town map to see who now lived there. To my surprise, the same villagers from 4 years ago were there. My in-game mailbox was packed, and I opened it and closed it repeatedly, deleting mails needed to make room for the rest. After reading it, the first 2 batches of letters contained messages saying the villagers who were apparently still here had left. The 3rd and 4th batches of the letters contained statements that said they'd come back realizing how much they liked this town compared to others. For those who had never played an Animal Crossing game, it was common in the original Animal Crossing for villagers to occasionally switch between the town on your memory cards, depending on how active you were on each of them, and how well you got along with them. Because of this fact, I had no reason to suspect anything was wrong, even though it seemed kind of odd they all decided to come back when the system should be a bit more random. It was getting close to dinner time for me, and I knew Tom Nook's shop wasn't open past 11 p.m., so I figured I'd go there first and see if the download I performed earlier might have added some nifty items not found without it. When I played it last, I couldn't be bothered to go through all the house upgrades all over again, having remembered what a chore it was on the GameCube, so I was only motivated to play long enough for Tom Nook's shop to have its first remodeling, Nook and Go. The shop looked a bit off. Instead of its usual cheery green and orange logo mat and blue and white shop sign outside, the letters were all black and border colors were red. Figuring this must have been a cool feature I had downloaded, I proceeded to enter it. When I got inside, Tom Nook greeted me saying, Welcome to my shop, it's been a long time. I saw the usual items and wasn't interested in them, so I decided to return later. I exited the shop, and when I did, Tom Nook was behind me. I turned to talk to him, and he said, "Where are my bills? You could have easily paid your loan by now if you hadn't been out in reality." A dialogue box popped up with two choices: "I'm sorry," or "Shut up, you miser, I won't pay you anything." I wanted to be mean in a happy-go-lucky game. I chose "I'm sorry." Tom Nook had anger animations that were not outside the ones programmed into the game. He responded by saying, "I know I sounded like I was joking when I said there would be consequences for not paying your loan, but this is only because I didn't expect you to take very long to take care of it. I was so good to you, buying and disposing of your unwanted items, giving you a place to live when you had virtually zero credit, and even letting you pay at your pace. Well, not anymore. You and these deadbeats that skip town to find them in every town must pay." He ran off towards what in my case was Mitzi the cat's house. I was rather fond of that character in the original Animal Crossing and was glad the system let her be my neighbor here too. Concerned for her well-being with a lunatic raccoon out to collect debt, I made my character run as fast as I could to her house to warn her. When I got there, it was too late. Mitzi's cute cat head with blue and white features was impaled on the mailbox outside her house. The body was holding a letter she was going to send me, knowing I was back in town, as news travels fast around there. I had the character interact with the body holding the note. It said in text, the letter reads, "Adam, why did you leave us for so long? Was your real life really so hectic you couldn't make time for your friends? We miss you terribly." The rest of the note was blood-splattered. I thought to myself, no, why'd she have to die first? How could the game know she was my favorite? Then I remembered it's because her house was closest to the shop in this particular save file. The screen flickered for a moment, then a dialogue box came up with a text that looked like the letters were bleeding down a surface. It said, "Now do you regret having a life?" The background changed to how it would on the Halloween in-game, except there were no villagers in costume. Not wanting to see any more of what became of the town, I tried going back to my character's house. When I entered it, Tom Nook had what appeared to be a bloody axe. Tom Nook said in text form, "Hello, Adam the Forsaken," or is it Adathor Rules? Ultimate RPG Gamer, perhaps? Or is it Adathor? He responded in text before I could ask myself how the hell he'd know all my profile aliases, from YouTube to All Poetry to Blogger to World of Warcraft, and even my Xat character that I based 2 creepypastas off of already. Yeah, that was the 2 I read last week, basically. The text read, "That's right, I know who you are. You may think you're safe behind the barrier of the game system. Still, once you activated the downloadable content, you unknowingly sent everything you've ever done on the internet into this game." I remember browsing YouTube on my 3DS a few times. I'd even made a few videos of my characters there and wrote poems and blogs on my 3DS. Tom Nook continued speaking while in text form. "While I may be unable to hurt you in the real world, physically your personal profile info is being sent all over the internet. You've been hacked and tracked using your Wi-Fi IP address. I know where you live. Not only can I ruin your virtual life, but I've called a hit on you in the real world using your voice." I thought to myself, okay, this is way too surreal to be happening. A game knowing all this about me and acting all self-aware. Some hacker with malicious intent must have compromised my connection to steal data from me. Or did they want to kill some random player unprovoked? Tom Nook said, "You may be wondering how I got your voice. Simply, I got it from the YouTube videos you made. Soon the fate of you see before the village and your character will be yours." Tom Nook finished the incredibly long dialogue like any other character in the game, put his axe away, swapping it out for a fishing pole. I could no longer control my character. I could only watch helplessly as he cast the line into my character's eyes and yanked them out. What sounded like a gurgled version of the cheer he would have done in the original game for the GameCube when he caught a fish or bug was uttered. "It will all be over soon," Tom Nook said. He swapped the fishing pole for an axe and stopped before he could kill my character. Tom Nook sighed and said, "Somehow I feel like this isn't scary enough for you yet. How about this?" The screen blacked out, and I thought that maybe it ran out of battery as it was out for 2 minutes. When I breathed a sigh of relief, the screen came back on. I saw an Animal Crossing custom avatar that looked just like my Adam the Forsaken character. Due to game limitations, he was only able to wield an axe and not a scythe. Tom Nook said, "Go and kill that deadbeat villager." custom avatar resembling Adam Forsaken responded by saying in text, "No one tells me what to do. I'm the boss now." He struck Tom Nook in the gut with his axe mercilessly until the character was split in half and dropped dead bleeding. The death animation looked a lot like a tree being chopped down. The avatar of Adam the Forsaken then faced the screen. He said, "Your character isn't dead yet, but I will remedy that." He chopped my character down. The top half of him fell like a tree being cut down in the game. The bottom half of his body stood like a stump left behind. I couldn't take it anymore. I'd seen too much, so I yanked the Animal Crossing game out of my system, forcing it to stop the game. I turned on my fireplace and threw it in there to burn. I then looked frantically through all the records of people I'd contacted via the internet on my 3DS, via email or Skype. After doing a web history search, I found the website and phone number of the company that offered arranged kidnappings and other questionable services of the like. I called the number, and sure enough, the receptionist confirmed that I'd called a hit on myself. I told her I wanted to call off the hit, and she asked for a cancellation password. I looked all over my 3DS and even my computer in the vain hope I could find some clue as to the password that they used. I explained the situation. She said, "Too bad, without the password we cannot call it off. It's for security reasons, as people can call up claiming to be anyone these days." I hung up the phone, scared out of my mind. Before I go into hiding, I'll leave you with 3 lessons I learned from this. The first lesson is never to play games that expect you to be there frequently and play in real time. If you ignore my first lesson and want to download the extra features, be there often and keep up with the objectives. Third lesson is if you're going to ignore both of these warnings, make sure you have encryption on your personal data. Even if you must pay a fee to hide your phone number, email, and other things that would otherwise be public without paid services to hide it, do it. If you manage to do any or all of these, maybe the story will not be yours. Okay, and that was the end of that particular story. Final thoughts? Well, it was originally written to explain a disappearance I'd had in my YouTube channel back in the day and make it seem more realistic. But there were a lot of things I could have done better with it. For starters, you're probably wondering who Adathor was. Well, he was my World of Warcraft primary back in the day, and it was inspired by a character called Agathor when, I guess, American Dad had this EverQuest parody or something, or maybe it was Dungeons and Dragons. And Steve's character, who couldn't really be killed by any other means except saying his name backwards. If you remember that one, that's kind of what that was based off of. And in retrospect, it probably isn't believable that assassins would have a password to call off the hit. Something that, again, American Dad had done before in an episode. And even if we could suspend disbelief that a hacker was able to invade a Nintendo console through a DLC, how would they also hack my accounts and compile enough clips to pretend to be me and call a hit on myself? You know? I mean, it's kind of like that hoax that's been going on lately that, if you say yes, somehow all your bank account, you'll be signed up for credit cards and bank accounts you didn't authorize by some hackers because they'll use that to say yes when authorizing various things that you would want. But without you saying, "I'd like to open an account," how are they going to pull that just from a yes? Anyway, that aside, I bring us to our next story. It's called Adam the Forsaken vs. Sonic.exe. Sonic.exe, as some may recall, was kind of that, Kefka laughing, bloody-eyed, "I am God" meme that was going around in the early 2000s. And basically the whole thing was he went and killed all these characters, and then apparently he would, that would disturb a person, and then I guess there was a sequel where, he was like a cursed videotape like what you would see with The Ring, and people who played it would die or something, and then there was this cult that was going on, but yeah, anyway. So I kind of made a choose-your-own-adventure style fan fiction of sorts. It was the first time I'd ever written something that wasn't a creepypasta, but more of a fan fiction, just kind of a, hey, who would win a fight between X and Y, And so, since I figure most of you have already seen my last creepypasta episodes, as long as you know what Sonic.exe is, I don't really need to explain much more. So, here we go, Chapter 1, A Murderer's Remorse. Adam was walking down the now empty streets of Kavina. Hanukkah had come for him just a week ago, and he'd crashed the school's Christmas parties and killed his 2 sisters. His parents and locals assumed he was missing, and no one dared to enter that ghost town anymore. Ghost town. Adam thought to himself, it didn't have to be this way. It shouldn't have to be this way. All I wanted was to live a normal life like anyone else. But these humans wouldn't have it. Because I had 1 or 2 disorders, they automatically assumed I was mentally disturbed. Their assumption only made their greatest fears a reality. Adam continued his walk when he came across an old Sega Genesis system with a Sega game. How weird. I remember my cousins playing this system before. Why would someone just throw theirs away? He thought. He looked at the suspicious cartridge inside. What kind of sick joke is this? He thought. Well, only other video game system I ever had was an N64. And with no one left who has wronged me or wants to kill me, I suppose I'll need a way to amuse myself. Chapter 2, Let the Games Begin. He brought it back to his lair, which looks a lot like Magus Castle from Chrono Trigger. Once he plugged it into the inhabitable part of his court, or castle, I guess. Instead of the usual Sonic screen, it was Sonic.exe with a bloody-looking Sonic image from the creepy pasta. Adam looked at it amused and played through it, losing Tails' lives, Robotnik, and Knuckles, though not necessarily in that order. Well, this game is a piece of crap. No wonder someone threw out the game. But the system, too, seems a bit overkill. Adam tried prying the game out of the console, but it was stuck. He pulled harder and harder until he had half the game in his hands and the other half in the console. Well, this sucks, and here I thought I had a free video game and a console that would work. He thought that he then heard a voice from inside his keep. Disappointed, little boy? It said. I demand to know who you are right now and why you dare trespass my territory. I conquered the city fair and square, and I'll let no one else have it. Adam replied. The mysterious voice spoke again. I don't want your city. I just want to play. You. It can't be. You're that monster from that video game, aren't you? Adam replied. Very clever, aren't you? But no matter. It won't save you from me. Sonic.exe replied. Your speed and ability to come out of the shadows in your game is admirable, but you're in my world now, so killing me won't be as simple as it is in your game. I shall kill you painfully and prove that I alone deserve this world. There can only be one ruler of this world, and it will be me, said Adam. Alrighty. With that, the battle began. Adam summoned an army of undead. Adam attempted to drag Sonic.exe to the center of the earth using his zombies, but he was too fast. You're too slow, Sonic.exe said. Speed alone a victory does not make, Adam replied. Sonic.exe launched a homing attack on Adam, but Adam parried it with his magical scythe. How fun, a metal I couldn't penetrate the usual way, Sonic.exe said. That's because it isn't made of metal alone, otherwise, you're right, it would have broken. No, these are imbued with the magic of the Book of Necromancy. If you were undead, I should be able to take control of you and make you do whatever I want, but that wouldn't be any fun. Adam replied. With that, the battle continued. Adam threw his scythe at Sonic.exe in a boomerang motion, and Sonic.exe dodged it. Idiot, you just left yourself wide open, Sonic.exe said as he charged a homing attack straight at Adam, which connected and did significant damage to his gut. Despite being in terrible pain, Adam smirked. I'm the idiot? Just then the scythe came back around when Sonic.exe wasn't looking and sliced him in half. Because Sonic.exe was undead, he was still animate. Heh, nice shot, but surely a necromancer like yourself knows it'll take a lot more than that to kill me, Sonic.exe said. Of course, if there's one thing I've learned about the undead is you have to go for their head. However, without your legs attached to the rest of your body, you're ill-equipped to beat me, Adam replied. Adam grabbed the legs and roasted them over an open fire and ate them. What are you? Said Sonic.exe in horror. Chapter 3, Choose Your Victor. If you want Adam the Forsaken to win, read Chapter 4a and ignore Chapter 4b. If you wish Sonic.exe to win, scroll past Chapter 4a and read Chapter 4b. If you don't want either to win, scroll past both Chapters 4a and 4b to Chapter 4c. Alright, Chapter 4, Adam wins. Sonic.exe is dumbfounded. He attempts a homing attack and splits Adam horizontally in half down the middle from the heart to the stomach. Adam is critically hurt and barely alive. Adam casts dark mending on himself and his wounds are sealed shut. He, however, needs a moment to catch his breath. Sonic.exe tries to capitalize on that and launches a homing attack. It's blocked by Adam's two tails, which drew magic swords from Adam's weapon rack behind him. Sonic.exe is getting desperate. He then notices the ground under him. Adam smirks. "Come at me, bro," Adam said as he ran for his trap rooms. "So, you finally want to play, huh?" Sonic.exe said as he floated himself towards Adam, going past the guillotines and breaking in through the bomb room and other traps until they reached the lava pit bridge. Adam sprouted black wings from his back using his never-before-seen angel of death form. "You are not a god, Sonic.exe. You will now suffer a fate worse than the Egyptian pharaoh in the story of Moses and the Ten Commandments," Adam said. Sonic.exe attacked Adam, but it didn't seem to damage him no matter what attacks he performed. "Are you about done?" Adam asked. Adam raised his hands up and slammed Sonic towards the lava, hanging onto him as he forced him in. Sonic.exe once dunked into lava, disintegrated, and Adam had won. Okay, enough with the Final Fantasy victory or whatever. And now, supposing you wanted Sonic.exe to win, here's how he would have possibly won. "I have no need of legs to beat you. Besides, I float now. Let's play." Even without legs, Adam could barely follow his moves until he was about to launch an attack. Adam tried to dodge his next homing attack, but the last one got him in the chest and it was hard to breathe, let alone fight. Sonic aimed for Adam's back, and upon hitting it, Adam was paralyzed and unable to perform an attack or spell. "Impossible!" Adam shouted. Sonic.exe then picked up a sword from one of Adam's weapon racks. "It's such a shame. I really had fun playing with you, but it cannot be helped," said Sonic.exe. He grabbed the sword and stuck it right through Adam's heart. His screams of agony more than enough to make losing his legs worth it. Eventually, Adam's breathing stopped and the undead he controlled were set free and turned every last living thing into a zombie, while Sonic.exe stood victorious with his signature thumbs up. Okay, and now for Chapter 4C, if neither of them are to win, because, let's face it, those two would probably make it an interesting duo. "Why are we even fighting?" asked Sonic.exe. "Funny you should ask, since you were the one wanting to play. Either way, I have nothing against you killing people, just as long as I'm not one of them. You clearly just want to kill, so why don't we ravage this land together, since you don't care about property ownership or ruling the world?" Adam replied. "Normally I don't make such compromises, but it's not every day I meet a worthy playmate. I guess I will let you live to play another day for now. At least until we kill every last human on this planet and other things," said Sonic.exe. Both of them walked out of the castle and slew the world together. Chapter 5, End Credits and Final Notices. I don't own the Sonic.exe creepypasta nor anything Sonic related. I apologize if you guys didn't like the outcomes I came up with, or how I made it a choose-your-own-adventure fanfiction. Also, it's my first fanfiction, so please try to rate fairly. Accept constructive criticism and realize it's the only way I can grow as a writer. I may edit this fanfiction to have more detailed or better endings later based on your remarks. Thank you for reading. Okay, and that was Adam the Forsaken versus Sonic.exe. Now, for our last story, it's less of a story and more just something I commissioned a person to make for me that's kind of cool. And when they finish making it, I'll put it in the description of this video. But in the meantime, there will be a description to the story that it's based off of, that I'm inserting my character into there. How the hell did you get Adam the Forsaken in a Street Fighter type game, you know? And, yeah. But the basic premise is, I guess these corporations are holding a world tournament, get the strongest person to kill the bad guy type, deal. And so, to that effect, this is how I wrote Adam the Forsaken in. Various corporations are keeping the world together in the face of evil. There was one that had been studying the darkness for years until they came to find a match. Hoping they could find a way to destroy Belians once and for all. They brought a boy from another world. The boy carried the darkness with him and was fresh from his conquest in his hometown of Kavina, and not the least bit happy about being taken away. "What is the meaning of this?" he demanded. A scientist named Billy's. Okay, so the demon is Belians, and then this guy is Belize, so try not to confuse the two. I'm Belize, and this is Continuum Corp, a corporation aimed at saving the space-time continuum at any cost. Now that we have the technology to cross universes, so can the great darkness that threatens our realm. If it can happen here, it will happen in your realm too. Over my dead body, the Catboy retorted. Except I'm no hero, nor am I to be your guinea pig. I'm Adam the Forsaken, and bringing me here was... His eyes turned a demonic red, his voice sounded possessed. Your biggest mistake. Wait, there's a tournament going on with a cash prize, and you can destroy it and save us all. I don't need money. I have more than enough power to take anything and everything I want. However, if this creature poses a threat to all of the universe, I suppose I should kill it. Normally I hate competition, but after the pathetic failure of the human race to handle me, this could be the chance to test the limits of my power. Just be warned, I'm not above killing to get what I want. So those fighters had better be ready to end me if they're going to kill it in my stead. As I said, I do not care about the money, and I do not care if they disqualify me from the tournament. There can only be one who wields the ultimate power, and it will be me. Billy smiled. Is this the part where you kill me and the rest of my team? No. So far, none of you have committed any atrocities to me, and as long as you do not insist on keeping me locked away here, I have no reason to do that. Where would be the challenge or motivation? Blaze nodded. Very well. But just know you do not have the home field advantage. We are always watching and learning the more you fight. Perhaps we can find a cure for the darkness by watching a being like you in action. It'd be too dangerous to study Belinese. So you're our best hope. By the way, every fighter has a cool catchphrase. What's yours? Adam smiled. Mom's not here, kids. Billy's beamed at it. Ooh, so chillingly brilliant. We could sell a whole toy line off that to fund our research. Adam narrowed his eyes. Typical. I should have expected no less from a soulless corporation. You can keep the prize money if I win, but you'd better return me to my homeworld in exchange. I conquered large swaths of it and I intend to rule over it for some time. Either that or make me the ruler of this one. Money is faith-based and holds no value when I can order people to give me what I want. As Adam leaves the laboratory, their computers load a file that contains scenes of what had recently transpired in Cavina, aka the first and second creepypasta. And the clip shows the following. Yes, scream for me. Your pain, your agony sustains me. And that was, well, basically the fighter profile. So when they eventually get done making it, it's not going to be a full actual game. It's going to be more a parody of a sprite screen of it, but they'll have like interactive features. You can click on it and they'll have like a catchphrase to play for the character. They'll show a character model holding a weapon or some kind. I kind of paid for them to make this for me because I thought, what the hell? But now that I think about the purchase a bit, I think, maybe I ought to register my business name if I got that kind of money to throw around. Well, that was pretty much it for Monster Monday tonight. I thank you for tuning in, and feel free to like, comment, subscribe, turn on notifications, and if you want to support more creative efforts, feel free to follow me on my social media profiles, also in the description, and feel free to buy anything you find interesting in my store. The first book more or less covers that Forsaken character in its more finalized story form for the most part, as does some subsequent books, some of the friends that he has. Yeah, a guy like him has friends, I know, but it's more a convenience thing than it is a genuine friendship. And, oh yeah, the last thing is, well, that's about it. I mean, anything you need to know is pretty much in my description here, or will be at some future date. I thank you for watching, and remember, Mom's not here, kids. Alrighty, good night.